Hello and welcome to your grass demonstration. So I would say most definitely practice on your sketch. I'm going to show you guys grass from different viewpoints, and I would use mechanical pencil. Depending on your area size, your bigger blender or your medium blender, I'd probably also use tissue as well. Okay. So this is worm's eye view, meaning the grass would be bigger if you're on the ground like a worm. So the key is to have some irregularity. So if it's really close, I'm going to go bigger. And then when I get back to my structure, I would overlap a little bit. So you can do like some larger kind of pieces and fill in. But then when you get to this structure back here, it's going to be really small to bigger. So I kind of like do a couple overlapping and then you kind of fill in. Actually, let me zoom in a little bit for you. Okay, so this is with mechanical pencil. Okay, really small. Then when I get closer to the horizon line, it's literally just going to be like kind of like a few stippling, a few dots just to create texture. I would say at least 2 layers for grass. Of course, just like any other texture, the more you add, the better it looks. I mean, I would say 5 or 6, but the reality of you actually doing 5 or 6 is slim to none. You can do like some bigger ones, like going right to the front. Okay, so then if it's a large area, use tissue. Not so large, just gonna kind of blend over that. Obviously being careful of my building, and it really doesn't matter, you just wanna gray it down. Okay, then I would go back with mechanical pencil eraser because it's really sharp, and erase out some bigger ones in the front. So it's the same, you're kind of hopping around, forcing your arm to not make it so perfect, some overlap. And then I would go back in another layer and kind of fill in, maybe outlining some of the bigger blades in the front. I personally would blend that again. Actually, let me fill in a little bit more. Just make sure it gets smaller as it goes into the distance, and when it gets to like the horizon line, it's just like speckliness. Okay, so blend over that one more time. Then I go back with my eraser again, pull back out. And I would do like a final, especially more towards the front, like some final darker pieces. So that's for worm's eye, where it's really big in the front, as if you're in the grass looking up. For bird's eye, I would actually start with this horizontal subtle texture that we started with in the very, very beginning. And honestly, like, you're not gonna be able to see grass from this high up, but if you wanted to, you could take some time and maybe you're just gonna do it on some of the lines, and then when you get back here, of course it's like barely anything and stippled. This almost looks like fields of something. So for this view, and then I would definitely blend over it so it's really, really subtle. If you have like a more extreme worm's eye view, so this one is above and below, but still kind of worm's eye. Let me double check my sketches. Okay, like one like this. We have a whole lot of negative space. Well, then down here, I definitely go bigger, kind of working their way to smaller, 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 speckled, to nothing. Bigger, medium, smaller, nothing. And then if it's in shadow, then it's much darker, like in the shadow. So I kind of go along the shadowy edge of the cast shadow. And in the shadow parts, let me fill in a little bit so it looks a little bit better. And I would overlap the building slightly. And then if you wanted to, you could go back in the grass that's really close to you or in your focal point area. You could go back and actually do some with pen. So you blend that out. Remember, it goes through the awkward, ugly stage because the more you layer it, the better it's going to look. So even in the shadow part, I would still erase some out, but just like less. So more erasing in the area that's not shadowed. And then when you get out here and it's kind of speckly, just kind of tap your eraser. And you can kind of fill that in if you want speckliness in your grass as well. Okay, so now I'd probably be a little more precise about like going some different directions. And I'd still hold my pencil in the middle so it doesn't get really, really dark and heavy. Make sure you hop around because your arm naturally wants to line things up. So if your grass is all lined up, looks like tally marks and it looks weird. You have these strange gaps. So do some in some area, force yourself to leave that area, do some in another area. And I think I have found some videos on YouTube for grass, but mostly it's in charcoal, which it's a similar process. So it's just the layering and the going some random kind of direction so it looks more natural. So again, 3 to 4, like 2 to 3 layers. I mean, the more you add, the better it's going to look. So I kind of go back in and then I would leave it. So if you want it to be really light, I mean, this would be fine, especially if it's further away. For this one, where there's only a little bit of foreground, well, then I would kind of make some judgments. Okay, so I want it to be about that big there. That means it's going to be even bigger here. And then maybe a couple bigger. So make some decisions before, and then when you get to the horizon line, maybe it's more like that. So make some size decisions before you just start adding it on there for depth and distance. And so that's how I would start your grass layers. Just you have to kind of hop around and fill in and blend and erase and add and blend and erase and add, and your last layer don't blend. Okay, there's your grass demonstration. Have fun.